Well, hello. Welcome to, is today Friday? Yes, it is Friday because I only do these calls on Friday. Hello to and welcome. I don't know. What is this? Badass Funnel Fiesta. That's what this call is because it's Friday. I just said that. What's up, people? Are you as frazzled as me that it is the end of the year? I just sent an email and there is less than 72 hours left in this year. 72 hours. So I'm just going to put this out there. If you're still looking for some tax deductions, hit me up. I got a program that we can talk about. But also, my guest today is this amazingly cool hypnotherapist. And we didn't plan this, but it's so amazing that our interview is today because I just told you I'm frazzled. It's the end of the year. All of the end of year stuff that you got to do and all of the Christmas things that we just wrapped up, I'm still stressing out about. Let's see. End of the year business stuff, end of the year family stuff, all of your holiday plans, then all of the New Year's plans, and then all of the things that you have to do to jump into the new year. It's a freaking lot. So I'm really excited that today of all days, because it could have been any time in the last month, here we have my friend Jodie, and we're going to talk about the razzle, not the razzle dazzle, the frazzle. Write that down, Jodie. Not the razzle dazzle, the frazzle. Gosh, that's funny. I crack myself up. Anyway, let's get started. Let me bring her up. She also has like the most soothing voice ever. So even if you do nothing today but listen to Jodie talk, it will be a game changer for your last 72 hours of 2023. Hello.
Hello, JKN. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
The
Me
way
and my
that you
soothing
talk.
voice are here for you.
Amazing. How are you today?
I'm doing great. And yeah, you're right. It's a lot. And we have 72 hours. That's
Less.
a little, less than 72 hours now. It is almost the end of the year. And I know a lot of people are feeling the same way you were just discussing, which is a little frazzled, a little crazed with all the things that are going on and where they're at and where they're not at and what they're going to do for the new year. So I'm here. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's just talk in. I mean, it's easy for me to talk. Let's talk about the things that I'm experiencing because if I'm experiencing it, other people are experiencing it, and that makes interview questions super easy. So, just ended Christmas. Christmas itself is always, by itself, Christmas is overwhelming. And now, as business owners, especially, we're wrapping up 2023, already jumping into all of the things that we have planned for 2024. So, what are some tips, first of all, that we can use in the next 3 days, the next week, to help us calm down, slow down, and not freak out as much?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is breathe. Like actually stop for like 60 seconds and breathe and just be like, okay, it's going to be okay. I got this. Right. So that's kind of the number one thing is let's just focus on breathing for a minute and just get in the present because we're so usually caught up in our head between the past. So what happened up until now this year and the future. Like you said, we're thinking about like, what are we going to do next year? What did we do this year? And it's like, how about just hang out for right now and just take a second, take a breath, and not just go through the next few days basically holding our breath and running around. And so that would be the first thing is just be in the present for just a minute. It doesn't take very long, I promise. But just even doing that once a day and just doing a little check-in with yourself. I like to talk about doing, 3 kind of mindful breaths, meaning like pay attention to the air coming in, all that good oxygen, let it flow. And then as you breathe out, just release tension. Just focus on, okay, let me get rid of all the stress and the frantic energy and the tension. And then just check in with yourself. Like, how are you feeling? What's going on? And check in with, your body and your mind. Like, how are you doing emotionally? But also, like, have you eaten? Because sometimes when we're, running around, we forget to do things like that. Do I need to drink some water? What do I need to stretch? Is my back hurting because I'm sitting on the computer all day trying to, cram things in or running around trying to put all the Christmas stuff away. And yeah, I kind of tweaked my back last week with the Christmas tubs, right? So got to check in with myself too and be like, okay, I need to, do a little stretch here. So what is it that you need to shift whatever it is you're feeling? Like, is there anything you can give to yourself? And it takes 1 minute, you do 3 more breaths, and then you can go back to whatever your to-do list is that's a mile long, like mine right now. So I definitely can relate, but we just need to slow down sometimes and just check in with ourselves and make sure that we're taking care of us so we're not wearing ourselves down, making ourselves sick.
So here, I wonder if you've experienced this or if I'm just a crazy person, but a lot of people, a lot of business owners, and myself included, this gap, right before Christmas through the new year, we tend to slow down when it comes to like our client meetings, when we're spending face-to-face time with people. But for me, even though I feel like it should be a calmer time business wise, this time of year I feel more hectic. Like I have so much more to do, even though I'm not doing client stuff right now. I just have all the things. Do you think that that's something that a lot of people feel, or I am just special?
No, I definitely think that. I think we try to fill in the gaps. So whenever we have some space, or we're supposed to have some space and some calm, because it looks like on our calendar we would, right? Then we kind of just, fill it all in with all the other stuff. And this time of year just lends itself to that anyway, because we have travel or, people coming into town. We, have holiday parties and, events. Your kids are home from school for like 2 weeks straight. And so that takes up, lots of time and energy because they're not out of the house, for example. There's so many things. And then, of course, the decorating and the taking things down and the cooking and the this and that. There's so much. So I think that is definitely common, that even though we may have less meetings, right? A lot of us have less clients because they're doing the same thing, right? They're running around and doing all the things that are supposed to be fun and supposed to be like restful, but they're still feeling that pressure to do all the things. And especially when we're so focused on working, as entrepreneurs, we're running our businesses. And then when that gets a little quiet, we're like, oh, here's my to-do list of like 50 different things that I never really have time to do because I'm usually working with clients or I'm in meetings. And so let me try to do all of that. And I know I have that going on right now where I'm like, oh, I have all these back end things that I want to do or I want to get set up for the new year. And so I have to pace myself too to be like, okay, yes. And I don't have to feel hectic and I don't have to put so much pressure on myself to do all of those things. Like, how can I kind of, slow it down and kind of bring it down and give myself time to do those things and time to actually rest? Because a lot of times it's not enough for us to really catch up. Because when we're going all the time, even those little pockets that we have to rest, we don't catch all the way up. We don't restore. So it's like looking at what can you do, and everyone's a little different on what recharges them the best, but what are the things that you can do for yourself that are actually going to give you that restoration of your energy so that in the new year, you're not already going into it depleted.
That's good. I wonder also, if we're filling all of this time with things that we want to do and it's quiet, right? It's supposed to be quiet time, but it's not. My brain's constantly going anyway, but I feel like this time of year it's going 10 times harder than usual. And I've noticed that because it's more focused on working in my business or on my business or whatever it is, that I also experience maybe a higher level of limiting beliefs. Do you think that this is also a time of year where that's pretty like higher than normal, higher frequency? What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
Yeah. I do. I think I get what you're saying. Yeah. And I definitely think that it is the case because this year naturally and it lends itself to reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're thinking about, okay, what did we get done? What didn't we get done? We're thinking about things like where we think we should be, where we wanted to be at the end of the year. We're looking at those year-end numbers, or we're looking at, the goals that we had set at the beginning of the year. Did we make those or not? And then we're looking at the year ahead. And sometimes that can bring up a lot of those limiting beliefs from underneath the surface. I call them the weeds, right? Those weeds pop up a lot more and we keep having to mow them down, and then they pop back up because it's like, well, if you didn't get some of those things done that you set out to, then we start beating ourselves up. Okay? We're like, well, why didn't I get that done? We start judging ourselves, or well, what was it? Like, wasn't good enough this year? Or I didn't make enough, or I didn't do enough, or whatever, right? Those things that come up for you, or I need to work harder because I didn't, and then, or we procrastinated, or we think we did, right? It's all these perceived failures or shortcomings, and all those limiting beliefs come up. And so, yeah, this time of year, I think it gets pretty rampant just because it's that time of reflection. And so that's why it's so important to be more intentional about looking at what were the things that did go well, like what did happen, all of those things instead of all the things that didn't. And then really addressing, okay, what keeps coming up for me? So that's one of the questions I've been asking in my groups and with my clients is, what keeps coming up for you this year? What was something that kept playing through your mind, or what's coming up for you now, so that you can really figure out what that limiting belief is and get to that root. So then you can change it, because we can't change unless we're aware of what those limiting beliefs are, right? If you don't know what it is, then how are you going to change it? And so I think this is a good time to look at those types of things and trying to look at it like not with the judgment, but just looking at it as like, okay, what it keeps coming up for me? Like, how am I feeling about this right now? And then you can look at like, what can I do to shift that experience? What can I do to change how I'm feeling? If you feel like every single time at the end of the year, you're feeling this like really hectic, frantic energy, it's like, okay, let's look at what we can do to maybe change that experience in the future.
Trying to figure out how to word this. So if somebody is experiencing where they feel like everybody has limiting beliefs, we all experience, but yeah. if we're going through this time of the year and we feel like the negativity and the things holding us back are heavier, is this the same type of situation where we just breathe and become aware of what's around us, or are there different tools or resources that we can use so that we go into 2024 with momentum instead of feeling like we're already behind the wheel? Wait, that's not the right. But we're already behind. Come on, I'll get it together.
Well, awareness is always the first step, right? So got to be aware of it, like I just said. And then the mindfulness is always a good tool. So that's always a good thing. It's not going to be enough to just stop and breathe to definitely work through those limiting beliefs. So there's definitely more to that. And it depends on what those are, for each person. So really looking at how you you can look at strategies, like practical things, like how you structure your time, for example, could be something that you may shift if you're feeling that pressure and always feeling like you're behind. We may look at something like that. But a lot of times it's starting with the self-talk, because sometimes we go straight to just the practical strategies and then we wonder why we keep feeling the same way or getting in the same place, right? So we think, oh, that's a quick fix, so I'm just going to get a new planner. Isn't that the thing? This time of year, right? We're like, oh, all the pretty 2024 planners come out, and we're like, I'm just going to get a new planner and it's going to change my life. And then you don't use the planner, or it just doesn't change your life, or you use it for 3 weeks and then you kind of just stop using it, or realize that it's not the quick fix that you wanted it to be. And so, doing things like that are great, but you have to change also how you're being, right? So doing is one piece of it, but what are you saying to yourself? So looking at your self-talk and starting to learn how to shift that, because we really can reprogram that. Generally the things that we say to ourselves are pretty negative. I mean, we're surrounded by a lot of negativity, and even from when we're born. I know a lot of people's first word, including mine, by the way, was no, because what are we told from when we're like first start moving around? No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. Right? No, no, no. And so what are we telling ourselves all the time? Right? We're focused more on the negative naturally. And so gotta kind of start retraining our brains to look more at, what are the good things that are happening? What are those things that we're doing well versus what we're not? Beating ourselves up all of the time. And most of the thoughts that we think are negative. It's kind of the 80-20 rule, right? So about 80% of the things that we're thinking are probably negative. Everyone's a little different, pessimists and optimists, right? So it can vary. But basically, we're thinking negative things and we're thinking pretty much the same stuff every day. So same thing, about 80% of the things that we think today are things we thought yesterday and the day before and the day before that. So it actually gets pretty easy to pinpoint your self-talk because we say the same types of things over and over and over to ourselves. So I would say that's the first thing, becoming aware of it, is actually writing down, like, what am I saying to myself, to try to figure out what those limiting beliefs are. And that can be a little scary, can be a little disconcerting because you're like, wow, I'm really like not talking to myself very nicely. And so, looking at things like that. And would you say that to anyone else? Would you say that to your kids? Would you say that to, your friends? Would you say that to a stranger? Would you say it to me? I tell my clients, like, pretend it's me. Would you say that to me? They're like, no. Like, I would never be like, Jodie, why can't you just get it together? Right? Like, nobody's going to say the stuff that they say in their heads to other people. And then starting to shift that by figuring out some more compassionate things you can say to yourself when that comes up for you, when those feelings or those limiting beliefs start popping up, because the self-talk is evidence of whatever that limiting belief is underneath.
Okay, so I used to be, I'm going to dive deep into this right now because I recognize the importance of all of these things. So I used to be a pretty angry person. Like, I know it's hard to believe now because I'm pretty positive. Things don't ever bother me. I'm like, whatever happens, happens. And it took a really long time for me to get over when you said that most people it's 80-20 in the negative. I have done a lot of work and I'm the opposite, right? Like,
yeah, you've switched it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really. So the reason that I really want to stick there for a moment, I didn't know that there were people who could help me get through that. Like, I buckled down, read a ton, did everything on my own, all of the things. So now, knowing what I know, having gone through all of those things before, I would love for you to tell the people watching this how you can help them get over that, how working with you can save them time, energy, lots of tears, lots of even more feeling like a failure because you're trying so hard to change these mindsets. And I went to school for psychology, so I had a hand up in figuring out how to reprogram all of the neurotransmitters and everything. But most people don't have that. So let's talk about that. How, if somebody feels like, I hear what you're saying, I don't want to be in this negative space anymore. I don't want to be having these conversations with myself that I would never have with anybody else. How can they work with you, and how do you work with your clients so that you get them through all of that junk? Because it's a ton of junk.
It is. It's like all, we're hoarding all of these negative thoughts, right, in our minds, and we have to clear all the clutter. And it's really, like you said, challenging to do that on your own. Absolutely. And it can be a really painstaking process trying to do that. And so, first of all, good for you. I commend you for, being able to just, dive in, and you knew where to look. Like you said, you had some education in that. And, it's a lot, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears of, diving in and reading all the things and trying to change that. When you are trying to change something, and create a new like neural pathway, right? These, it's changing all these like neurotransmitters and all the things that you were talking about. It can take, if you're doing it, especially on your own, like 400 repetitions for something to stick. And that's a lot. I know it sounds like a lot.
It is.
Now, it is, right? You've done it. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And especially when we're just working from this like conscious level, right? We're on this like logical thinking conscious level where we're like, okay, I really just want to try to train my brain to think a different way. So much is happening on the subconscious level, right? So under the surface. So when we're talking about the weeds, so like I was saying, the weeds pop up and you mow them down, right? They keep coming up and you mow them back down. So think about having to do that like 400 times. So how I think of that is those are the things that are coming up to the surface consciously, right? They're coming up from underneath. And so what I do as a hypnotherapist is I help people to tap into their, the power of their own subconscious mind and their inner wisdom to determine where is the root underneath the surface, right? What's going on under there, so that they can identify that and we can, pull that out for good and fill that area with something that's going to support and serve them better, right? Something that's going to be much nicer, not weeds. And so that can take a lot less time. So when I'm working with clients, we would do a deeper dive into what I just explained. So really looking at, what are those things that they're saying to themselves and what are those limiting beliefs that are underlying. So it's either, sometimes we're not even aware, honestly, of that self-talk until we really start looking at it, because we're not really like stopping to think the thought.
Yeah.
We go straight from that limiting belief to feeling and acting. It just goes so quick. It moves so quickly that we don't even really consciously realize that it's happening. So we figure out what those things are. We figure out, where did that come from? Where, and we don't have to stay there. That's the thing that I don't believe we have to stay in the past and like live there for a really long time. Like we want to be aware of what that root is, just so that we know the best way to take care of that, right? To heal that and to be able to move forward. And so with hypnotherapy, what happens is you're able to calm down that really critical, hypervigilant part of yourself that's throwing all the negative self-talk at you, right? That place where the limiting beliefs are coming from. And so that part of yourself that's always criticizing, that's always looking for what's wrong, right? We can just kind of soothe that and kind of calm it down a little bit, so we can really access what's going on underneath the surface in a very non-threatening, very calm and safe way, basically. And so getting to that subconscious level, we're able to get that work and the results done a lot quicker. So if you look at, for example, different kinds of therapy modalities, because I've been trained in different things like, cognitive behavioral therapy and, different types of things that you would do to talk through and work through. And those are all very, very useful. Absolutely. Right. Figuring out what you're thinking and how you're behaving, right? Because our thoughts then affect our emotions, affect our actions. So we want to be able to look at those things. But if you're only looking at it at a surface level and you're talking in circles around something for months and years, I want to be able to help my clients get to that quicker. And so with hypnotherapy, for example, you can get to the root of something. You can get the same results in like 6 sessions as you can with 60 sessions. Let's say if you're just, working on the behavioral therapy side, or like 600 sessions if you're just trying to psychoanalyze your childhood all the time, right? And so instead of taking like, no, seriously, I had a client who told me that, yeah, in 6 sessions, we did more work, and she got to a place that it took her like 20 years with her previous therapist. I was like, wow, that's a long time. So I never wanted my clients to have to take years and decades to work through something. I want to help them do that faster. And so that's the power of getting to it subconsciously, is you can reprogram much quicker. And so, you do a session, you're going to get like some clarity around it, right? Rate of change for us is success rate, right? As hypnotherapists. So like 10 to 15% change, you do a few sessions, 45, 50% is what the research says. And then, 5, 6 or more, you're looking at like 90% plus. And so, there's no like 100% guarantees in life, of course, but that's pretty darn good. And so when you're able to do that quicker because you can go to the direct source of it, that is the benefit of working with me, is I can help you to do that without, like you said, years and all the tears. We're able to really do the inner work and get you where you want to be a lot faster.
I had never thought about I knew it could be working with somebody else always makes the time frame shorter, right? But I had never thought about the time difference between like traditional therapy, like you said, 60 or 600 sessions versus we're diving really deep into the subconscious. We're going to get there super fast. Can't hide from it. 6 sessions. I mean, not that that's set in stone or anything like that, but
not
just
set in stone. But if you're looking at like a single issue, right? If you're like, I want to work on this. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Like you're going to get so much further in just like, a handful or half a dozen sessions than you would, if people have a lot deeper, rooted, like my specialties are things like trauma and anxiety, abuse and burnout and things, that a lot of times these limiting beliefs and the self-talk that we're talking about, sometimes it's something that took years and decades to develop, right? It's going to take a little time to unravel those things. Absolutely. And there might be multiples things to work on, right? You also could be like one of my clients who was an entrepreneur who was just having an issue trying to figure out why she felt like she was bugging people every time she tried to reach out for sales in her business. And, it didn't take a lot of unraveling, a lot of time to figure that out. Through her hypnotherapy sessions, we were able to figure out that there was a comment that her mom, who's very supportive of her business, by the way, she's a very nice person. And her daughter's like biggest cheerleader now, but made a comment about her selling like candy bars or something when she was 10. She got all excited and came home and said, hey, we're going to sell these things for school. We're going to win these prizes. And my friends and I are going to do this. And her mom was like, nobody wants to buy candy bars from a 10-year-old. You're totally not going to go bug our friends and family and neighbors doing that. And she hadn't thought about that in like 20 plus years. It was still there. She just, we don't think about those things. It was just a random comment her mom made. And subconsciously, it was causing this limiting belief now in her business in her 30s, where she was feeling like she was going to bug people because that is something that she just internalized. And our subconscious likes to overgeneralize things and think like, well, like she said, I'm going to be bugging people. So anytime I'm going to go try and sell something, I'm going to be bothering them. Yeah. And so once she was aware of that and we were able to, help her work through that and heal that and create a new, more, supportive and positive belief, she was good to go. So, like I said, everyone's going to be different. So it's important to, have that conversation about, what's going on with each individual person, and what some of their limiting beliefs are and where they come from. That's why it's, very important to know that, like, where does that stem from? But again, if it's one thing that you're wanting to work on, and it could be just as simple as, hey, a comment a teacher made or a parent made or an experience you had, however many years ago, that can be really simple to work through in just a few sessions.
That's good. So hopefully if you're watching this, you have had some major nuggets, some aha moments. Jodie has a lot of programs that she is getting ready to, she's already running them or promoting, and in January, new things coming out. And she told me yesterday that she was going to do a workshop for the January Purpose and Profit event. So I'll be bringing her back to do a whole training for you guys. If you have any questions and anything, I know somebody said that they have some questions. Drop them in the comments below. We'll come back to those, answer those questions. Also, Jodie, you have a freebie for people, right? Like you are offering some sort of a call.
I am. And I think that's the best way to really explore your own options for support is a free 30-minute call. And what's really great is, we're going to be able to pinpoint, what's going on for you, figuring out, what the challenges and issues you're dealing with are, some of those limiting beliefs that might be coming up for you, and then how what I do can help you. And if it's a good fit and I know that I'm going to be able to help you with that, then I can invite you to work with me. But it's just an opportunity for people to, ask their questions and figure out like, hey, this thing that is going on with me, like, what can I do about it? And I can give you some suggestions on that call and to get you started. And so, yeah, be happy to offer that to anybody who would like to take advantage of that. And yes, I'm going to come back. I'm really excited for the summit. I'm going to be talking about reprogramming your brain to help you follow through on those New Year's intentions. And so we're going to have some more kind of tips and strategies and techniques on how to do that. So I'm definitely going to be doing some experiential work with people in that talk. I'm thinking it's going to be really great timing because, we typically people will set New Year's resolutions and they won't even make it to February.
No.
Or a lot of people honestly have given up and they're like, I'm not even going to set resolutions. What is the point? And so we're going to talk about some things you can do instead, and then how to make sure that you follow through on whatever it is that you decide, if it's a word, if it's an intention, if it's just, a monthly or a quarterly goal, because everything that happens up here ends up coming out in our businesses. Our businesses and us are inextricably linked. We cannot separate that. So I'm excited to help people with really getting off to a good start in their mind so that they can get off in a good start in their business this year.
Okay, so as a closing thought, since you kind of mentioned it, I want to know, do you have a word for 2024? Is that something that you do?
Thing. Sometimes I do. Yeah. And I'm still playing around with it a little bit. So I've had words, in the past, whether it was grow, and I like to do a word that fits all areas.
Yeah.
So that would be my tip on the words is, something that is going to encompass your business, but also personally and, in your health and wellness and that kind of thing. And so, I like to pick a word that's going to be like, okay, these are all the things that I'm going to do this year in all these different areas. And so, yeah, I've had different words. I think this word this year, I'm playing around. I'll share with you all. I haven't decided 100%. But I'm playing around with deepening, which is different, right? It's a different word for me. And
absolutely.
The reason why it's going to be something along those lines when I figure out what the exact word is because I've decided that I have all the things I need. Mm-hmm. And I just want to deepen those connections that I have. Right. So you and I got connected in 2023. Mm-hmm. And so doing more things together in 2024 is something I'm really excited about, or the collaborations that I'm doing, or the courses and programs and coaches that I'm already involved with. just kind of, diving deeper into those things, into learning, because I love learning. So I'm one of those people, I could be like, I want to learn this and this and this, but I want to take the things that I already am involved in and just dive deeper into it. So it's going to be something along those lines. I'm still kind of playing around. I need to pull out the thesaurus and see what kind of resonates the most. But that's my theme for 2024 for sure.
I have the same problem. I've got a whole list of words because I, like you, I'm like, I want it to encompass multiple facets of my life and my business. But then, like, for instance, one of the words on my list is accelerate, because I launched my Superfan Accelerator. I want to help people move faster to their goals, but I don't necessarily want to accelerate parts of my life. So anyway,
okay,
thinking about different things too. So there's
you
still
and I have that in common. We have that in common with our clients. That's always our goal, right? Is like, how can we help you get what you're, going for faster? But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, you don't want to just, feel like every area of your life you're trying to accelerate so quickly. So, all right, I'll think about that. I'll let you know if I come up with an idea for you.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody who has watched live and the replay. Like usual, let us know when you're watching, especially the replay, and be sure to drop your questions. If you are asking Jodie a question, it is helpful because Facebook and their comments are stupid right now. Tag her, tag me, so that we see it and that we get back to you. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. Have a very happy new year. Do not let the frazzle overcome the razzle dazzle of your celebration. I'm going to say that as much as I can now. That's
the new thing. Yeah.
It's my new thing. Yeah. And I said something else and I'm like, oh, I got to write that down too, but now I forgot. Anyway, that's it for 2023. This is the last episode of the Badass Funnel Fiesta in 2023. I will see you, I think, next Friday with, I don't even know who my guest is because I'm still so focused on closing out the last less than 72 hours of 2023.
Hey, you're staying in the present moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm in the present moment.
Yeah, we're gonna roll with that. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Absolutely. And take care of yourselves first before everybody and everything else. And yeah, happy and safe New Year, everyone.
Good. Okay, happy New Year. See you guys later. Thank you, Jodie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.